Okay, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. By the way, cool Rush poster over there. I don't normally react to videos, but I thought this was worth one, especially considering just recent events, but whatever. So, yeah, um, we're going to listen to Senator Mike Lee's response to the Green New Deal in Congress, and I may or may not pause it in the middle just to go through.
Senator from Utah.
Mr. President, fear
Okay.
has become an all too prevalent quality in American political discourse. And unfortunately, fear is unavoidable when
Sad part is there's
debating
no one in
the
Senate,
substance
but okay.
of the resolution before this body today. That is climate change, socialism, and the Green New Deal.
Okay.
On entering this debate, I have a little fear in my heart as well. But, Mr. President, my fear at this moment may be just a little different than that of some of my colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike some of my colleagues, I'm not immediately afraid of what carbon emissions unaddressed might do to our environment in the near-term future, or our civilization, or our planet in the next few years. Unlike others, I'm not immediately afraid of what the Green New Deal would do to our economy and our government. After all, this isn't going to pass. Not today, not anytime soon.
Okay, and before we continue, yeah, he's correct. It's not going to pass, at least for a long time. A number of Democratic and Democratic caucusing senators even voted against it. I believe it was Doug Jones, Kirsten Sinema, Angus King, Joe Manchin joined all 53 Republicans in voting no. So that's 57. So red state and swing state Democrats are not exactly the type who would vote in favor of this legislation, and indicating by the fact that no Democrat even wanted to vote, wanted to present their views on the legislation, my inclination is that not all of them wish to upset the progressive wing of the party, because I think a few members of the Democratic caucus in the Senate are not fans of this policy. So we have that.
Certainly. Rather, after reading the Green New Deal, I'm mostly afraid of not being able to get through this speech with a straight face. For Mr. President,
This must be good.
I rise today to consider the Green New Deal with the seriousness it deserves.
Okay, so this ought to be good, because I actually have one of Mike Lee's books. It's called Written Out of History. It's actually extremely good. I encourage anyone who wants to read it, or even if you don't want to, I would encourage you to read it. It like I said, it's really good. So, anyway, moving on.
This is, of course, a picture of former President Ronald Reagan naturally firing a machine gun while riding on the back of a dinosaur. You'll notice a couple of
His
important features
assistant
here.
is struggling not
First
to
of all,
laugh.
the rocket launcher strapped to President Reagan's back, and then the stirring, unmistakable patriotism of the Velociraptor holding up a tattered American flag.
Small correction here, that's not a Velociraptor. Judging by its size, it's probably a Dakota Raptor. However, it can't be any of the dromaeosaurs, aka the category that all raptors and actually all modern birds fall into, because it has no feathers. Fun scientific fact, all predatory dinosaurs had feathers at some point in their life, and likely throughout their entire lives. And it's likely that the majority of dinosaurs actually had some sort of plumage, aka feathers. and the closer you get genetically to modern birds, the more feathered they became, and the more complex those feathers became. Uh, Raptors or more accurately, dromaeosaurs, like Velociraptor, Utah Raptor, Dakota Raptor, Microraptor, birds, were entirely feathered throughout their entire lives, from hatching out of the egg to the time they died. So, small correction, but we get the point.
Flag, a symbol of all it means to be an American. Now, critics might quibble with this depiction of the climactic battle of the Cold War, because while awesome, in real life there was no climactic battle. There was no battle with or without velociraptors.
Thank you,
War,
Mike
we all
Lee.
know, was won without firing a shot. But that quibble actually serves our purposes here today, Mr. President, because this image has as much to do with overcoming communism in the 20th century as the Green New Deal has to do with overcoming climate change in the 21st. The aspirations of the proposal have been called radical, they've been called extreme, but mostly they're ridiculous. There isn't a single serious idea here, not one.
He's going to go into it, but that's entirely accurate. The Green New Deal is not a serious policy. It's a propaganda piece, and it's a bunch of, to make a terrible pun, it's a bunch of Bolshevik. So, there.
To illustrate, let me highlight two of the most prominent goals produced by the plan's authors. Goal number one, the Green New Deal calls essentially for the elimination of airplanes. Now, this might seem merely ambitious for politicians who represent the densely populated northeastern United States. But how is it supposed to work for our fellow citizens who don't live somewhere between Washington, D.C. and Boston? In a future without air travel, how are we supposed to get around the vast expanses of, say, Alaska during the winter? Well, I'll tell you how. Tauntauns, Mr. President.
Oh, God. Oh, God, yes.
This is a beloved species of reptomammals, native to the ice planet of Hoth. Now,
Look at her,
while perhaps
look at her
not
face.
As efficient in some ways as airplanes or as snowmobiles, these hairy bipedal species of space lizards offer their own unique benefits. Not only are tauntauns carbon neutral, but according to a report
Carbon neutral.
a long time ago and issued far, far away, they may even be fully recyclable and usable for their warmth, especially on a cold night. What about Hawaii? Isolated 2,000 miles out into the Pacific Ocean. Under the Green New Deal's effective airplane prohibition, how are people there supposed to get to and from the mainland? And how are they supposed to maintain that significant portion of their economy that's based on tourism? At that distance, swimming would of course be out of the question, and jet skis are notorious gas guzzlers. No, all residents of Hawaii would be left with is this. This is a picture of...
Oh my goodness gracious. See, he said he was going to handle the Green New Deal with the seriousness it deserves, and we clearly know he's not being entirely serious, though I think he may have some seriousness in this, trying to explain how ludicrous it is, but, you know, that is... And of course, her face throughout the entire thing, this lady here, her face is just priceless. You can see her holding back laughter.
Aquaman, a superhero from the undersea kingdom of Atlantis, and, but notably here, a founding member of the Super Friends. I draw your attention, Mr. President, to the 20-foot impressive seahorse he's riding. Under the Green New Deal, this is probably Hawaii's best bet. Now, I'm the first to admit that a massive fleet of giant, highly trained seahorses would be cool. It would be really, really awesome.
He's right, it would be
We
really
have
awesome.
to consider a few things. We have no idea about scalability or domestic capacity in this sector. The last thing we want is to ban all airplanes and only then find out that China or Russia may have already established strategic hippocampus programs designed to cut the United States out of the global market.
Yeah.
Mr. President, we must not allow and cannot tolerate a giant seahorse gap. Goal number 2. The Green New Deal anticipates the elimination of all cows. Talking points released by the sponsors of the resolution the day it was introduced cited the goal of, quote, fully getting rid of, and I'll paraphrase a little bit here, flatulating cows. Now, Mr. President, I share their concern. But honestly, I think you've got to remember that if they think the cows smell bad, just wait till they get a whiff of the seahorses. But back to the cattle. I've got a chart to illustrate this trend. As you can see, Mr. President, on the left, these little cows represent the bovine population of America today. On the right is the future population under the Green New Deal. We would go from about 94 million cows to 0 cows.
Now, I'm going to stop it here because the Green New Deal, they are 100% correct when they say it is a socialist policy. It's reinventing the economy in a socialist way. And because we're talking about animals, I think it's reasonable to bring up this quote that, according to seems like what AOC and the rest of the people who are proposing the Green New Deal want. They want a world in which all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
No more milk, no more cheese, no more steak, no more hamburgers.
Oh, you take away my burgers, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be mad. Take away my steaks. Yeah, no. And of course, get rid of cheese. Good Lord, I love cheese. Oh, I love cheese. Oh, I love cheese. Yeah, no. I immediately don't support that.
Over the state work period last week,
Oh yeah, no more McDonald's.
I visited some farms to find out for myself what Utah's own bovine community might think of the Green New Deal.
That's a good one.
Every cow I spoke to said the same thing. Boo. The authors of this proposal will protest that these goals are not actually part of the Green New Deal, but were merely included in supporting documents, accidentally sent out by the office of the lead sponsor in the House of Representatives. But, Mr. President, this only makes my point. The supporters of the Green New Deal want Americans to trust them, to reorganize our entire society, our entire economy, to restructure our very way of life, when they couldn't even figure out how to send out the right press release. The Green New Deal is not...
That was a very good and articulate point. So that's pretty cool. And give me just a second, my phone kind of blew up there.
not a serious policy document, because it's not a policy document at all. It is, in fact, an aesthetic one. The resolution is not an agenda of solutions. It's a token of elite tribal identity, and endorsing it a public act of piety for the chic and woke. And on those embarrassing terms, it is already a resounding success.
Correct.
As Speaker Pelosi herself put it, quote, the green dream, or whatever they call it, nobody knows what it is, but they're for it, right? Right. Critics will no doubt
Okay, so if I remember correctly, that's an actual quote. Mike Lee's not the type to manufacture a quote like that. But that reminds me of I forget who it was who said this about what was it, about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. They said, well, I don't know what's in it. We just kind of have to pass it to figure out what's in it. That's not how legislation should work. That's not how you should pass laws. No.
Chastise me for not taking climate change seriously. But please, Mr. President, nothing could be further from the truth. No Utahn needs to hear pious lectures about the gravity of climate change from politicians from other states. For it was only in 2016, as viewers of the Sci-Fi Network will well remember, when climate change hit home in Utah, when our own state was struck not simply by a tornado, Mr. President, but by a tornado with sharks in it.
Oh my God, he referenced Sharknado. Oh God. Oh God, that's just perfect.
These images are from the indispensable documentary film Sharknado 4. They captured the precise moment when one of the tornado sharks crashed through the window of Utah's Governor Gary Herbert. A true Utah hero and a fine American, Governor Herbert, who, by the way, is an incredible athlete and an expert tennis player. Governor Herbert bravely fought the animal off with the tennis racket that he keeps by his desk, precisely for occasions such as this. So let's be really clear, Mr. President. Climate change is no joke, but the Green New Deal is a joke.
Yes.
It is the legislative equivalent
of
Austin Powers' Dr. Evil, demanding sharks with frickin' lasers on their heads. The Green New Deal is not the solution to climate change.
Oh, God.
It's not even part of the solution. In fact, it's part of the problem. The solution to climate change won't be found in political posturing or virtue signaling like this. It won't be found in the federal government at all. You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. Mr. President, this is the real solution to climate change. Babies. Climate change is an engineering problem. Not social engineering, but the real kind.
Yeah.
It's a challenge of creativity, ingenuity, and most of all, technological innovation.
Yeah.
And problems of human imagination are not solved by more laws. They're solved by more humans. More people mean bigger markets for more innovation. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries.
That's accurate, yeah.
As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, on this very point addressing this very topic, quote, by having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change, close quote.
That's
Finally,
reasonable.
Mr. President, children are a mark of the kind of personal, communal, and societal optimism that is the true prerequisite for meeting national and global challenges together.
Nice.
The courage needed to solve climate change is nothing compared with the courage needed to start a family. The true heroes of this story aren't politicians, and they aren't social media activists. They are moms and dads.
Nice.
And the little boys and girls that they are at this very moment putting down for naps or helping with their homework, building tree houses and teaching them how to tie their shoes. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to to think family and act personally. The solution to climate change is not this unserious resolution that we're considering this week in the Senate, but rather the serious business.
So, before I get to the end of it, that was actually a really articulate point right there, that we need to be preparing the future generation to handle these issues on their own rather than resorting to government. That's an articulate point.
Of human flourishing. The solution to so many of our problems at all times and in all places is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Okay, so before I go into another one, that was a articulate point, all of it. It was a bit sardonic, I will admit that. It was a bit yeah, you could argue it was demeaning towards the people who wrote the legislation of the quote Green New Deal, but the truth is that the policies in the Green New Deal are not the type that would solve any of the issues and improve life in America. They're essentially saying, well, in order to protect the environment, we should have no economic output whatsoever, which means that a lot of people are going to die. The part about there being no cattle, that means there's going to be no cattle farms, there's going to be no dairy farms, people aren't going to be able to make a living like that. You're not going to have steakhouses anymore. You're not going to have burger joints. You're not going to have you're going to wipe out entire sections of grocery stores. You're going to wipe out meat markets. You're going to wipe out butchers. You're going to wipe out slaughterhouses. All of a sudden, you're just flooding the economy with even more unemployment, and that's just insane to think that you're going to improve life by putting that many people out of a job, which is in the millions. I guarantee you it's in the millions. And a lot of those are low-wage workers, which supposedly the people who are proposing these policies care about. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel on that speech, and I'm not really going to say anything on the Green New Deal. I mean, it's pretty clear that I'm against it, but I'm with Mike Lee. Of course I care about climate change, but I don't think the solution is government. I think the solution is each and every single one of us being conservation-minded and doing it our damn selves. Whatever happened to, I ain't asking nobody for nothing if I can't do it on my own. And sorry to quote a country song there, but, what happened to that mindset of, if I can do it on my own, I'm not going to ask somebody else to do it for me. What happened to that mindset? Anyway, take it easy, y'all. See you next time. Bye.